Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Hungry Bachelor. My name's Greg. I'm the host of the show. And I'm here to show you that just because you live alone, you cook for one, it doesn't mean you cannot eat well. Cooking for one is a simple thing. It's usually a neglected thing too. Bachelor life is busy. When you live alone, you're the housekeeper, you're the chef, and you're the breadwinner. Finding time to eat well often takes a back seat, but I'm going to show you how you can change that. Now, today we're going to make stuffed mushrooms. And one of the first things that you need when you're making stuffed mushrooms is your meat. Today we're going to be using flaked ham. Flaked ham is bought at the grocery store, it comes in a tin, and it's usually about $1 or maybe $2 a can. You don't have to get the name brand stuff, no name will do. The store brand is fine. And what you want to do is put it into your bowl. Now it comes out in a clump, and what you're going to have to do is break it up a bit with a fork, just like this, until you get small clumps, but mostly just nice little flakes. That is step one, really, because unless you get the meat stuffed mushrooms, well, they're just not stuffed mushrooms, they're mushrooms. So that's got our ham broken up. Now, we need, of course, the mushrooms to stuff. And here they are, plain white mushrooms. Nothing fancy. I've already washed these. What you're going to do is you got to make them so you can stuff them. So to do that, you snap off the stem. Simple. All right? You're going to be left with that. Now, that's not a big space, but believe me, you can get plenty in there. And again, just snap off your stem. Okay. The stem, for the most part, is woody and useless for what we're going to be doing. In some cases, it doesn't want to come out. And if that's the case, you just carefully get your fingers in there. Try not to split your mushroom, because you want to, as I said, hollow out the mushroom. You want to get the stem out, because we're going to be putting our meat into these. And again, you can use, I'm using flaked ham, you can use crab, salmon, I don't recommend tuna, but any flaked meat, any tinned flaked meat works fine. Crab, imitation crab, both perfectly acceptable. And you're gonna just hollow, as I said, hollow out the mushroom. If you need to use a knife, if the stems are really woody and in there, by all means, grab a knife. Get it cleaned out as best you can. Some of them are easy, some of them are hard. Like I said, some go easy, some don't go at all. There you go. And those ones, hey, you grab your knife, right? So there we go. We got the last mushroom here. There we go. That's all of our mushroom caps. These are what we're going to stuff. So you want to make the opening as big as possible, because you're going to be shoving your flaked meat and a little bit of cheese in there. You're going to get some cheese ready here in a moment. Okay. Sometimes we just need to wind the opening a little bit. Now, if you're using a mushroom with a softer stem than these white mushrooms that I bought the other day, what you're going to do with those is you're actually going to cut up the stem, because the stem itself, the center is actually what you want, like this part here, the soft fleshy part. That's great filler. you use a little bit less meat, and the whole thing's a little bit less fatty. But we don't have a lot to do with here. We don't have a lot here to begin with. So we're gonna set our mushrooms aside, and now we're gonna prep our cheese. Now, the whole point of this show is showing you how to improvise, because I don't have a cheese grater, and yet I need the cheese small enough that I can lay thin slices on top of my nine mushroom caps here. 1, 2, 3, and you know, this one's a little bit thin, so that's just going in the mouth there. So we got 3 and 4. And we should be able to get 5 out of this chunk here without any difficulty. Now these are going to lay on top of our mushrooms, these slices that I'm cutting here. These are going to cap our mushroom caps, and we put them in the oven to bake. It's very important that it be thick enough that it's actually going to cover the whole mushroom. That's the cheese. Part of it, the cheese, I should say. Now I'm pretty sure this chunk here is a lot bigger than any, but this is going to be going in with the ham. So what we're going to do is cut this up really small, really fine pieces, just like this. Cut them like that. And that is going to be going in with the ham. So this is all going in to stuff the mushrooms. Now, we're going to cut up a few more. We're going to cut up a bit more here. Cut up a few like that, I think. Not going to go too crazy with the cheese. We don't want to make ourselves, sick with the cheese here. But we're going to, as I said, cut it up nice and fine, small pieces, just like this. Little wee pieces. We just drop in with the ham. As I said, you don't need a lot of this. So we've only got 9 mushrooms to do, so I'm not going to do a whole lot of cheese. This is plenty, I think. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can drop the pieces of cheese right into the mushrooms, which obviously is going to be, then you're going to be packing your ham in on top. And actually, I think I might do that. So we're going to take one of the mushrooms here. We're going to take a few of the pieces of cheese. Just drop them in. Boom, like that. Lay them in nice and small, nice and low. Just drop them in. 3 or 4 pieces should be plenty. This is how we make our stuffed mushrooms, folks. Remember, when you're making stuffed mushrooms, this is food. It's meant to be tasty. It's meant to be fun. If you're not enjoying your food, you're doing it wrong. And enjoying the food can also mean enjoying making it. Because a good meal is not just for the body, but for the soul. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be editing out a lot of the commentary here, because let's face it, it's just cheesy. Alright, so here we have our 9 mushrooms. They have our cheese in them. There's our cheese to go on top. We're going to grab a little bit of seasoning. I'm going to season up the ham. That we're putting in. Actually, what we're going to do is just sprinkle the seasoning. I'm using just plain old seasoned salt here. So we're going to take a bit of ham, a little bit at a time. We're going to use the fork. We're going to pack it down in a little bit, as much as we can. We don't want to break the mushroom open, of course, but we want the mushroom to be nice and full. You can use your fingers. Might be a little easier if you do. You're just going to pack it in there. Nice and firm. Crumble your ham a bit more if you need to. You still got chunks, that's fine. You're going to just pack it down in. Remember, each mushroom is different. Now, interesting thing about mushrooms, when you're picking them out, most times they come pre-washed. Reason being, mushrooms are grown in decaying matter. They only grow really in decaying matter. They're a fungus, not a vegetable. But if you know how to cook mushrooms, you'd be a fun guy to be with. Again, just pack your stuffing in. You already got the cheese laid in there. Pack the ham in. These are really simple stuffed mushrooms. You can do a lot more complex stuff with them, but we're going to keep it nice and simple for today. is our last mushroom here to stuff. Just pack a little bit more on. Now, the nice thing about stuffed mushrooms is they can be a great main course or a great appetizer. So if you're gonna have guests over, these are a great thing to make as an appetizer. But since I'm eating alone, I make them for myself because hey, I just love tasty food. And you know, you can trust me to say that because there's three people in this world you should never trust. One is a car salesman who says, "Hey, have I got a deal for you?" Another is a politician who says, "Yes, there will be tax cuts." And the third is a skinny chef. I don't know if the camera can pick this up, but I am definitely not a skinny chef. Okay, so that's perfect. We got the right size here. We've got a little bit of ham left over. So I got flaked ham to use for my sandwiches for work. Now, just going to put the caps back on here for the moment. I'm going to sprinkle them with seasoned salt. I don't want that on my cutting board. Just lightly dust them with seasoned salt here. Just enough to add some flavor. Easy. Put our cheese slices on. Don't worry if your cheese is a little irregularly shaped. It's all going to be irregularly shaped by the time it makes it into your stomach. Anyways, there we go. Stuffed mushrooms. I just need to put them on the tray, and they need to go in the oven. Now we've preheated our oven, and we're going to be putting the stuffed mushrooms in. Just one last look at them before they go in the oven. Now we want to do the mushrooms at about 350, and they're going to bake for about, well, until the cheese is golden brown, really. So we're going to turn the oven light on. Nice thing is, since the meat's already cooked, we don't have to worry about the meat actually cooking. It's just a matter of melting and browning the cheese. Now, with that done, now we can start our couscous. Now, personally, I like to use a broth. You get a bit richer flavor to the couscous that way. We're going to put the broth on. Now, the trick to doing couscous is as soon as it boils, as soon as the water boils, you add your grains. Now, this is actually a pasta. Couscous is actually a pasta or a cereal. It depends on who you ask. But again, I do mine in chicken broth. You don't need to add much in the way of seasoning that way. So again, as soon as the water boils, or as soon as the broth boils, which I've already prepared, incidentally, so it shouldn't take too long, we add the actual couscous itself. We stir, we cover, we let it, and then we remove it from heat. All told, couscous actually doesn't take long to prepare. The longest portion of the longest wait is actually cooking it, getting the water ready. So that takes a few minutes. So now that the broth is actually boiling, we add our couscous. We grab a fork, we give it a stir. we kill the heat. And then we cover it. That's it. That's couscous. Now, mushrooms are coming along nicely. It's going to be about another 10 to 15 minutes for them. Alright, so my timer has just gone off. The mushrooms do appear to be done. So we're going to be plating here in a moment. To do that, of course, we need a plate. Now, grab my trusty off glove. This is couscous at its finest. Nice and light and fluffy. That is a great side for pretty much anything. So we're going to put that on the plate. The nice thing is cooking it in the chicken broth, making it with the chicken broth, it does pick up the chicken flavor. Otherwise, couscous can be a little bit bland if you want to use some butter. If you don't use the broth, you can put some butter on it. Moistens it up very nicely, adds some nice flavor. Always make sure you cover it to keep it moist. Now, turn off the oven. We're going to pull out our stuffed mushrooms. And this is exactly what I'm talking about right here. This is good food done easy. Stuffed mushrooms, you don't get much easier than this. You take some mushrooms, you hollow them out, you stuff them with meat and cheese, and you top them with cheese. And then, I'm just going to grab a knife here to help stabilize these. What you're going to do is you're just going to lift these off and onto your plate, just like that. Don't forget to get your cheese that has come off the top here, your lovely melted cheese. This is the part where I would, do the whole Dan Aykroyd save the liver when he was impersonating Julia Child, but it's true. You don't leave anything behind because it all has some wonderful flavor to it. What's really nice is I've got some extra here because there were 9 mushrooms. I'm going to serve up 5 for dinner. I got some couscous left. And that is a work lunch. There's a work lunch right there between the couscous and my stuffed mushrooms. That is how a bachelor can eat well. So, that's dinner. It doesn't take much, but it sure is tasty. Anyone who says it is impossible to have nice food when all you're doing is cooking for yourself, I just want to point out, this is nice food right here.